because you got 13 shit words that you're talking through. Are you still working or sometimes catch yourself?
Oh, every day.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the fact that we've gone 30 minutes, I haven't rephrased a sentence yet. We're getting there, right? This is the preacher at the pulpit, right? The preacher on Sunday morning is a sinner, right? He's striving to, he is reading scripture, reading Quran, reading, right, rolls and scrolls, whatever, pick your religion, right? And he's saying, this is the way to live a righteous life. And by the way, I am saying this because I also fail. I also sin. So the ultimate shit word that I use, should. Yeah. Every time I do a workshop or keynote, we go with should, because should is my ultimate crutch word.
Or you're shitting all over yourself.
Did you read that in the book?
No, I haven't read your book yet.
That's in the book. It literally says, don't should. That's what it says in the book. It says, don't should on yourself, don't should near others, and never shouldn't all over the place.
That's awesome.
Because it's the ultimate money mortar quarterback. Well, you shouldn't have done that. Well, no, thanks, Bob. Now that we have all the information, yeah, you're right. And yet, here we are.
I wanted everyone to hear that because they're going to sit there and go, yeah, there's some weak words that I use. And they should be continuing to work on it. Yep. And it's one of those things that they can get frustrated, be like, I'm doing this. But the preacher at the pulpit is a great example of that.
And I have some people that say, hey, I read your book. Okay. I agree with 50% of it. Fine. Good.
Take that 50 and run with it.
Take that. It was interesting. One of my words that I use is miss. Of the 13, that's the one I probably have the strongest or the weakest argument for, right? It's not a great argument. It's like, this is right. It's very inside of me. And I remember that when I was in Iraq, because my girlfriend at the time was like, oh, I miss you. And it's like, well, we can focus on loss or we can focus on what we have. Hey, I'm one day closer to being home, right? And so this is not, Iraq, I was 21 years old. So this is not like all of a sudden, right? The word miss is probably the first of all the shit words. And even when I wrote in the book, I didn't feel great about it. I'm like, I know it, but I don't know so much. And then 6 months ago, I was doing a workshop, 60 minutes in front of a diverse group. And the guy that introduced me, his name's Lynn Karazi, he goes, I read Andy's book. And Andy's an interesting character. And he does his, his bits. And he goes, and you know what? The one word that stood out the most to me was miss. He goes, I read Andy's book right before my father died. And my father was my hero. And I did the eulogy. And I quoted Andy's book in my father's eulogy. And I said, I'm not going to stand here and tell you what I miss about him. I'm going to tell you why I'm grateful that I had him for long as I had. That is the gain, not the gap, right? We think about Dan Sullivan and TEDx, right? Getting rid of the word miss. And instead of focusing on gratitude, now we're focusing on the gain. What did we gain here? Not where's the missing, right? I talk about my grandma. My grandmother, most important person in my life to me, she passed away when I got to Gitmo. She passed away within 6 weeks. And so I flew home on a Red Cross message. I had the opportunity to see her one last time and go to her funeral. She's the most important person in the world to me. And when I've been at my darkest, I remember the lessons she's taught me. So I don't sit here and talk about my grandmother being dead for the last 10 years. I talk about the first 30 years I had with her. And so here I am. Here I am being vulnerable and questioning myself. And here's somebody else standing out and saying, Andy changed my life because he was willing to say the thing that no one else had even considered. And for 15, 17 years, whatever, and I got shit on for not using the word miss. I had lots of girlfriends that did not care for that. When I'd say, oh, I'm going to miss you. Well, I'm not going to miss you, right? Because I'd leave for 2-3 weeks at a crack for the Army. It's like, no, I'm going to get really good at not seeing you, right? And distance makes the heart grow fonder. I'm going to really appreciate when I do get to see you, right? And I thought, well, this is me being Billy Badass. I'm going to stand up. No, it's like, well, I can sit here and miss you, or I can appreciate when I get to see you. And now, now I don't take people for granted. Now I appreciate the moments. Now I find greatness in the gratitude. And when I find greatness in the gratitude, like you say, am I still working on it? Hell, I don't talk about gratitude at all in my book. And yet that's like my new thing. I'm focused like this year, right? All because I had an ex-girlfriend that told me that I wasn't grateful for her, right? And I realized now that I spent the last 9 months really focusing on gratitude. And the byproduct of focusing on gratitude is I realized I was not grateful for her because she did not make me great. And I wasn't great around her. Forget that. Let me get rid of that first sentence. The first part of the sentence was shit. I'm going to call myself out, right? It's not that she didn't make me great. I wasn't great around her.
Yeah. Yeah.
I allowed myself to sit in the corner. I allowed myself to be in a box. I allowed myself to have my language compromised, right? So not her fault, right? Carolyn, not your fault, right? It's my responsibility. I'm looking right at the fucking camera, right? It's my responsibility to be great. And when I'm around people and I'm not feeling great, it's my choice. Either step up and be great or find a new fucking audience.
Yeah, the couple examples you used were so great. I was sitting here thinking about my father-in-law who took his own life a few years back. And thinking about there are days you wake up and it's like, man, I miss him. But I had 11 great years and he taught me so much. And that brings you back to gratitude.